You guys probably saw the tweets just within the last hour or so. The president saying the budget that passed is a really big deal, especially in terms of what will be the biggest tax cut in U.S. history. Mainstream media barely covered. You know, Jonathan, Paul Ryan says the tax code overhaul is going to include a fourth tax bracket so the wealthiest Americans don't get a windfall. What do you make of that idea? Do you think Congress is capable of making sure this happens?
In a word, no. Because the only thing that the Republicans in Congress agree on are tax cuts for the rich. You know, this is not a middle-class tax cut. It goes overwhelmingly, as we just saw a moment ago, to upper-income people. And there's also no guarantee that this will do anything to create jobs. When President Bush tried this, more than 10 years ago, it didn't work. It did not create prosperity in the early years of this century, and it hasn't in the past either. In fact, sometimes when taxes go up, the economy gets better. So trickle down is a failure. The whole premise of the bill is a failure, and we'll see whether Democrats and Americans who don't want a tax cut for the rich can stop it in the next few weeks.
Sophia, can you put into perspective the kind of pressure Republicans face in trying to get a tax cut bill passed?
Two things. First of all, I disagree with Jonathan strongly. I do think that they will get something done because they've had such a failure on the health care front that they cannot end this year, or at least the early part of next year, without a significant tax cut for everybody. The middle class has to be the biggest beneficiary. I've known Paul for over 20 years. He's a budget man. He's a numbers man. He loves this stuff. And if he says they're going to create a fourth bracket that allows the wealthiest Americans to at least stay status quo and not get the windfall while focusing on those of us who are working or higher earners, I think that's a good thing. And I think they have to get it done, Alex, or they have zero credibility going into the midterms. And if they fail, they're going to take a shellacking in the midterms.
Well, you're echoing the sentiments of Senator Lindsey Graham, who pretty much said just what you're saying right there.
Just quickly, Alex, I don't disagree that they do need to get something done. I just don't think that they're going to do something for working people at the end of the day. They'll push something through.
Okay. Let's get to the dispute between the White House and Congresswoman Frederica Wilson over the president's condolence call with the widow of a fallen soldier. You've got the Washington Post editorial this morning saying that John Kelly owes the Congresswoman an apology. Do you think he does, Sophia? And wouldn't it be better to just do it, get the apology out there, and get this behind the White House?
Two things. Full disclaimer, Frederica Wilson is a sorority sister of mine. I know her. She's an amazing, good woman. She loves her constituents, and she loves this family that lost this young soldier, LaDavid Johnson. That's number one. Number two, General Kelly, I'm also a fan of, and I'm surprised that he would get himself involved in not his remarks about Gold Star families, because that was good, but talking about the Congresswoman, calling her an empty barrel, and then falsely accusing her of remarks at the FBI, that's beneath the dignity of someone of John Kelly's status. It's just beneath him.
So should he apologize?
Absolutely, and he should call her up privately, and he should apologize, and then he should come back to the press room on Monday and say, hey, I got the facts wrong. I was caught up in emotion. This is a big issue. I don't like it. We're messing with military families here. I took it personal, but I misspoke on the facts. And I think we all can forgive him for that and move on.
You agree, Jonathan?
I totally agree with Sophia. And if he does that, his popularity will go up. He needs to model behavior for the president, and he needs to stay within the kingdom of facts. And a bunch of newspapers now, after the Orlando Sentinel tape of the Congresswoman's remarks came out, have editorialized that he was just wrong on the facts. Not maybe wrong, not alternative wrong, facts wrong. He was just wrong. And it's extraordinarily important that we keep the facts in our focus here, and especially for him. He needs to indicate that he has not gone all Trump on us, and he has not become not just another banana Republican who operates as if we're living in some Latin American banana republic. We can't have that.
To that end, Sophia, you heard White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders say Friday that it was highly inappropriate to get in any kind of a debate with the four-star General Kelly. She later dialed that back, saying, of course, everyone can be questioned. But what has this back and forth on the story done for the White House? How should this end?
Well, it's hurt the White House enormously, and it hasn't been good for Congresswoman Wilson either. It's not been good for the Republic, Alex. 4 young men gave their lives in this year in battle. We don't know all the details yet. This young man, LaDavid Johnson, there are some issues surrounding why he was separated, et cetera. So let's deal with that. But for the commander-in-chief, who I think probably made a call with good intentions, but we know Trump is inartful in his speech. It's awful. And I think that he echoed what General Kelly told him, and he just parroted it, and he got it wrong, and it offended the family, and here we are. So it hasn't helped the White House at all.
Before I let you guys go, I want to ask you about your reaction to 2 former presidents speaking out on the same day this week. I'm curious, Jonathan, if you were surprised, certainly by President Bush coming out so forcefully.
I was a little bit surprised because he's been pretty quiet since since he left office. But there was no subtlety to these remarks, even though he didn't mention President Trump by name. And the most important part of them, I think, is when he said that if people at the top act like bullies, that sends a message to families and to children across America. What the president does, the way he comports himself, is extremely important, even aside from policy. And I thought it was an excellent speech by former President Bush, and something that people should pay more attention to.
And Sophia, do you think it was more powerful that neither President Bush or President Obama mentioned Donald Trump by name? Did that keep it from getting too divisive? Can you answer quickly, too?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the president's club, but George W. Bush's speech was phenomenal, and every American should watch it. When he called bigotry and white supremacy blasphemy on the American spirit, wow, talk about a powerful turn of phrase, and so true. So it was excellent, and President Obama is always excellent in his remarks. He's just a good orator, so I wasn't surprised by his comments as well.
Both you guys are excellent, too. Jonathan, Sophia, thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Alex.